Hi, so let's look at how we can use QuickBooks to track our raw material, work in progress, and finished goods. So let's use an example for this. We're going to be using a rice milling company where you buy rice paddy, then you undergo those processes and give a finished goods, which is the rice itself and other uh, associated byproducts. Okay, so first of all, if you want to be able to do that, you have to go to list item list. Now from this item list, let's create new item. Now here you have different kind of item type. So you have service type, inventory. So I'm most likely using service for the labor. So those that will be responsible for the dehusking, for pre-cleaning, paddy separation, polishing, and grading and sorting, blending, etc. Those ones will go for service type, right? When you click on service type, you are not selling this service. It's not as if you are selling to anybody, so you have to make sure you select this option so that there's an information about the cost. Okay, now we need to select an account here which will reflect as cost of goods sold account. So we don't have it now, so but let's just start this way. So I'm going to create the item name. So let's say if you want to have it as label, so I'm going to be using label here, but if you want to identify this label based on the action that is carried out, based on paddy separation, based on grading and sorting, based on husking, dehusking, blending, husk separation, weighing and packaging, storage, etc. Depending on which kind of service you are going to engage a laborer or the work of some persons to carry out these things for you. So you can call them, you can name them. If you want to be able to identify them by these various categories, you can name them. But in this case, for the purpose of this training, I'm just going to stick with labor. So when you see labor here, you should know that this labor cut across all these kind of activities that is carried out when producing rice: pre-cleaning, husking, husk separation, paddy separation, polishing, etc. Okay, now that is that. So but then you have to make sure you select this, because if you leave it empty, it means you are selling this service, but you're not selling it. Instead, you are paying for the service. Quite all right, you can decide to leave here empty, but then before you can do that, you have to make sure you enable that in edit preference. But for the sake of this, you can just put sales, but you're not selling anyway. So let's click on this. So you need to create a cost of goods sold account for this labor that we are service we want to record. So we have to select, but we don't have it. We need to create a labor account. So but here we have different cost of goods sold account, but they are not labor. So but then your expense account is not going under cost of goods sold. Your expense account for labor is like a work in progress. These are the people that are on ground to carry out the various activities that is needed to produce this rice. Okay, so you're not going to use cost of goods sold for this labor. Rather, you are going to be using other current assets. So the only two other current assets we have is this. So we need to create a new account. So go to new. It has to be other current asset here. Then you can name it labor. Just like I said earlier, if you want to identify them based on their different transactions, please indicate those husking, dehusking, padding, pre-cleaning, and etc. So I'm going to just use labor for this scenario here. So with this, I'm done with the part of the service. The item type has to be service, then the name is labor, then the expense account has to be other current asset. This way it will reflect in the balance sheet, the financial position. Okay, you can choose any income account here. In your description, you can decide to add description, fine. Okay, or if you are paying by an hour, you can go to unit of measure and create a new one, and then go to time, next, like that. But we're not paying an hour here, so let's just say we are paying by monthly. We pay them monthly, and if it is hourly, you can also do that by selecting the unit of measure. So once I click on next, Now, the next item we most likely going to create, let's say we are going to use, of course, utilities. These utilities will go under other charges. So utilities will be water and light. You definitely need this, but of course, it means you would have separated, maybe kind of do an absorption overhead. Like, okay, part of my utility, so percentage is going for the production, while the other remaining percentage will be going for administrative purposes. So in this case, we are going for the one that is for the production. Now, remember, you still need to click on this button because it's not as if you are selling this, you're actually paying for it. So you have to click this item is used in assemblies, you can see, or is it a reimbursable charge. But here is an assembly because we'll be needing this utility to produce the rice. We also need the labor we've created earlier on to also produce. All this we are going to select them as when creating the rice as an assembly item. So now, of course, we are not going to be using labor. This is utility. So we are also going to create a new item still under other current assets, but this time around you now put work because work in progress, work in progress, work in progress. Then you call it utility, utilities. Okay, so let's quickly go back to the other account we created. So the labor also has to be work in progress. Remember, as I said earlier on, they are all work in progress. So one sec. So from here, so we'll go to chart of accounts instead. Chart of accounts. Then other current asset, this label, we're going to edit this and add work in progress. Okay, work in progress for labor. So save and close. So that's the correction we want to make. Then we'll go back to item list. We've created for labor and we've also created for okay, just have labor for now. Then the utilities, so let's go for utilities. So utilities is other charges, just like I said earlier on. So utilities, then you select this, then go to expense here, other current assets. You see we have utilities. Then you can still select sales. Never mind about this because you're not selling this utility, you're actually paying for it. So this expense account is what is going to take care of that. You can also add additional information to your utility, maybe charge per build, per assembly, or you can just add, since you have a round figure. So next, we've created for labor, and we've also created for the utilities we are going to be using for this assembly. So we also have to create other charges for freight. So freight and shipping costs. If it is coming from sea, and if it is shipping, or depending on how your transaction is, it might be shipping, it might be carriage inward. Okay, it might be carriage inward also. Okay, so this is the same as the freight and shipping. You can call it carriage inward depending on how you want the terminology to be. If you are not shipping it, if it's carriage inward, you leave it as carriage inward. Okay, inward. So now here you also have to select this button, which is already selected. Then in the case this time around, this is a carriage inward, is part of cost of goods sold, not other current assets. You know, it's part of the cost of the item. You are not tracking the work in progress for this one. This is a carriage inward. It's already incorporated. It's already part of the item you are buying. So it has to be cost of goods sold. So for now, we have freight and shipping cost. So we can use that figure, that account. If you don't have it, you have to create by add new. Next, so we've created 3 accounts now. We've created one for the freight, we've created one for utility, and we also created one for labor. And I will still reinstate that labor can be any of the activities: the paddy selection, separation, the husk separation, the husking, dehusking, pre-cleaning, polishing, and blending, etc. Those are, if you want to identify your own labor by that, you can actually put their names like that. Most importantly, the finished good, which is the rice. Now, rice is not order charge, it is the inventory assembly. Now, before we go ahead, let's go to inventory part. Inventory part is going to be paddy rice or rice paddy. Let me use rice paddy. This is the raw material you are buying, the raw material you are getting from the farm, right? So, of course, you might use a unit of measure, maybe buy them in kilogram. So we'll go to weight, you can do next. Then kilogram is the lowest unit of measure, that is also, you buy them in kilogram. So everything you're going to be having here is going to be per kilogram. Okay. Now for the raw material, you also need to select a cost of goods sold. Remember I told you the carriage inward, which is this freight and shipping cost, also has to go attached to they are all part of cost of goods sold together with the raw materials. So here we don't have for raw material, so we can quickly rename or just create a new one. If you want to rename, you go to chart of account. So let's try to rename one of the cost of goods sold. So let's say merchant account fees. We did that. Then call this raw material. So raw material, right? These are raw materials. So, and it has to be cost of goods sold account. Then once you click save and close, I think we need to edit that again, seeing some additional information. So over here, since we edited the account, you can just add other information you want to add there. Then the income account still, let's go to new item. The income account still can be any account. So let's select the raw material here. Income account is sales account, but we are not selling this raw rice, we're actually using it for production. But in our edit preference, when you go to accounting, company and preference, you see require account is selected. So it's always good for you to, because if I don't select, for example, there might be a mistake where I create an item and forget to include the account that will track that transaction. So you see that everything will just go wasted. So let's say this is like this, and I try to save. Let's say okay, you see you haven't assigned a class. Okay, I say save anyway, but still you must specify an income account, right? So let's put sales account. Now the inventory account is very important. The inventory account is very important. So here we have it as inventory assets. I think it's okay if I want to name it inventory assets, or I'll just go to chart of account and most likely just change it to raw material. So let's go to other current assets. This is it, inventory asset. So we'll edit it and maybe just use it as a raw material. So we know that this inventory account is for raw material. If you decide to put inventory, it's fine. So save and close. So go back to new item. Let's continue. So you can select from here now raw material. It has been selected. If you have minimum, maximum, the other on hand, we don't have. Here we're just setting up the chart of account and the items so that everything, you see, per kilogram, everything will go smoothly, right? So next, once we've done creating this, now we have 4 items that we've created. Let's look at our item list. We've created labor, we've created rice paddy, which is the raw material, also created carriage inward and utility. The most important of all now is the inventory assembly. So this is where we are going to couple everything and we name it rice. This is the rice we are looking, the finished good. Before I forget, let's quickly change or create an account. So then from here now you select, this is the rice. So you also can select maybe based on kg or any other measurements that you think deem fit. Then for the finished goods, the cost of goods sold here is going to be, so let's select the main cost of goods sold, which is here. So we can say cost of goods sold for finished goods, right? So we can just use this one for our cost of goods sold. Then when we now come to the item now, this is where you're going to select the inventory part you've created for rice paddy. The next one, you also create for, let's see, for labor, depending on how many labor you, then for this one, for the utility, then the fourth one, according to what I have here, then the carriage inward, right? So, and also, or carriage inward, or I think we created, yeah, okay, we use carriage inward. So for that, so we're using carriage inward, yeah, here. Okay, so we have it four. We have rice paddy, the raw material, those who are going to carry out the cleaning, the husking, the separation of the rice from the husk and etc. Then the utility is the light, the water and other. Then the carriage inwards is the freight cost, freight and shipping cost. Yeah. Okay, so these are all what will come together to form this rice. So from here then we can just go ahead and select not raw material, but this time around finished goods. So we're going to create another and other current assets, but here now it is finished, or FG, finished goods, finished finished goods. Okay, so this is a finished goods inventory we want to use to track our inventory account. So see, this will serve as our finished goods. You see we have 4 raw materials, we also have work in progress, labor and that. So from here you need to include the costs. See, the cost is 00, but that is because we're going to come back and edit labor, utility, carriage inward, the rice paddy, and include their price, their cost. So that is only when you can see their cost reflected here, then the quantity and that. Okay, so but for now we're just going to, what we are doing now is how to set it up, how to have this in your QuickBooks first of all, before you can now go ahead and purchase the raw materials and carry out these transactions to give you a end report where you are going to be able to see your work in progress of finished goods and your raw material. So that is that. See you in the next video where we are going to now make use of a real life scenario or an example to illustrate this transaction.